Good afternoon. President Aquino is showing his support for environment-friendly power sources at the Green Switch launch in Quezon City. There, SM Supermalls have just rolled out its solar rooftop project. Let's now go to Anjo Alimario joining us from the SM City North EDSA complex. Hi, Anjo.
Hi, Ma. Yes, President Aquino led the launching of the Green Switch of solar rooftop project of SM Supermalls, particularly here at SM North EDSA. Now, in his speech, the President did mention that the House Committee on Energy has recently approved the joint resolution giving emergency power for a possible power shortage by 2015. The President hopes that the final resolution will be approved sooner than later so that the national government can contract the necessary energy reserve needed for the looming power crisis come summer of 2015. And for Luzon alone, the President did mention that it would need or it would project 300 megawatt to 1,000 megawatt power shortage by summer of 2015. And President Aquino admitted that the national government cannot do this alone. That's why he thanked the SM Supermalls for its commitment of 57.9 megawatt for its interruptible load program, or ILP, during critical times for the summer of 2015. Now, the President also says that renewable energy can be a competitive choice for power that it plays to the country's strength. It generates savings and it helps in mitigating the effects of climate change. Now, SM partnered with Solar Philippines to put up the 5,760 solar panels that could generate up to 1.5 megawatt power, which is enough to power 1,000 households. Now, the solar panels can be used to light up all the 16,000 lighting fixtures, 59 escalators, and 20 elevators of the SM North EDSA. This would translate, according to President Aquino, a contribution, an average of 5% to the total energy consumption of SM North EDSA, or savings of 2 million pesos per month. Now, after here at SM North EDSA, SM will next install solar panels at SM Dasmariñas, where you have 3,243 solar panels that would expected to generate 0.8 megawatt power. Next would be at the Mall of Asia, where you have a bigger installation, bigger than here at SM North EDSA, with 10,534 solar panels, which is expected to generate 2.7 megawatt power. Mai?
Thanks, Anjo. Anjo Alimario there reporting on the launch of the solar rooftop project. Good afternoon. The Defense Department is celebrating its diamond anniversary. Let's bring in George Cahiles for the events at Camp Aguinaldo. Hi, George. Go ahead.
Hi, Mai. We're here in Camp Aguinaldo for the 75th founding anniversary celebration of the Department of National Defense, where President Benigno Aquino is the guest of honor. Earlier, at past 10 in the morning, President Aquino arrived and he was escorted or met by Secretary Walter Gasmin of the DND and General Gregorio Patapang, the Chief of Staff of the AFP. And before going to the AFP theater, they viewed the disaster response equipment exhibit of the Armed Forces of the Philippines and other organizations, including the Philippine National Police, the Bureau of Fire Protection, as well as other volunteer groups, which contributed to the disaster response activities in the past calamities here in the country. Of course, highlighting the 75th anniversary of the DND are, of course, its accomplishments for the past year, which include the territorial defense of the country, which includes the conduct of both naval and air operations in the West Philippine Sea. And on maritime security, the DND highlights its maritime air patrols, which is continuous up to now, particularly on the areas of Kalayaan group of island, the majority of which were around the Pag-asa, Rizal Reef, and Ayungin Shoal, as well as Bajo Masinloc. While for the internal security, the department said that it continued to provide full support to the peace talks with the Moro Islamic Liberation Front, particularly in the signing of the three annexes on transition modalities, wealth sharing, and power sharing. Also, highlights would be the offenses against the Abu Sayyaf group and other terrorist groups. According to the DND, a total of more than 40,000 combat operations were carried out, mostly in the provinces of Basilan and Sulu in the past year. And on the part of standards of capability and preparedness against calamity and emergencies, highlights of the department's accomplishments was, of course, these are the Zamboanga City siege in September last year, the Central Visayas earthquake in October, and Typhoon Yolanda in November. The DND released a total of 465 million pesos sourced from the department's quick response funds, primarily for the acquisition of humanitarian assistance materials, equipment, among others. And also, it is important to note that the department also participated in operations in support to global peace and security improvement. Well, one of these would be the agreement on enhanced defense cooperation between the Philippines and the United States. And the said agreement, which was signed in April 2014 during the official visit of U.S. President Barack Obama in the Philippines, is envisioned to further advance the implementation of the 1951 Philippine-U.S. Mutual Defense Treaty. If you could remember, this enhanced defense cooperation agreement is still being questioned before the Supreme Court. And among other international participation would be the sending of a contingent as well as military observers. For example, in the United Nations Disengagement Observer Force in Golan Heights, the UN mission in Liberia, wherein our 133 peacekeepers are currently being quarantined in Caballo Island, and of course the UN stabilization mission in Haiti. And on the part of AFP modernization, in 2013 alone, according to the DND, 13 projects were completed, which includes the acquisition of BRP Ramon Alcaraz for territorial defense, naval helicopters to support maritime air patrol in amphibious air operations, the combat utility helicopters, among others. And of course, one of the highlights that were mentioned by Secretary Gazmin earlier is the department managed to receive awards of ISO 9001-2008 certification to 6 of its units, particularly the 410th Maintenance Wing of the Philippine Air Force, the Office of Defense Reform, the Government Arsenal, the Veterans Memorial Medical Center, the Philippine Veterans Affairs Office, and the Philippine Military Academy. So, meantime, we're having some special or having some snacks. The guests are having some snacks here at the FPCOC. And meantime, back to you, Mike.
Thank you, George Cahiles there reporting to us from Camp Aguinaldo today. Good afternoon. We begin in the Senate, where the 2015 proposed budget of the Departments of Labor and Justice are now being discussed. We have Ivy Saunar there for us. Hi, Ivy. My budget deliberations for the 2015 national budget resumed today here at the Senate. There were interventions earlier on the Justice Department's budget. Senator Loren Legarda, Senate Finance Subcommittee Chairperson, says there is a need to establish additional family courts where an estimated 300 million peso fund is needed. Family courts have jurisdiction over criminal cases where an accused is below 18 years old when the victim is a minor. Complaints for annulment of marriage, declaration of nullity of marriage, and those relating to marital status and property relations of husband and wife, among others. On the Senate's version of the 2015 national budget, part of the major budgetary increases include the additional funding of 715.36 million pesos for the Enterprise Information System Plan of the Supreme Court. Right now, budget deliberations for the Department of Labor and Employment is ongoing. Later this afternoon, budget deliberations for the Departments of Science and Technology, Transportation and Communications, Agrarian Reform, and the Commission on Elections will commence. Mai? Thank you, Ivy. Ivy Saunar there for us at the Senate. Good afternoon. President Aquino, who is now in Singapore for a state visit, reiterated his earlier pronouncement that he will no longer seek another term. Anjo Alimario will tell us more from Malacanang. Hi, Anjo. Go ahead.
President Aquino echoed his earlier statement back in October that he's no longer after a second term. In fact, he added, yes, 589 days left before he steps down in 2016. Now, the moderator in that forum, attended by the President of Singapore, asked him if a single term a good idea for a country or having a second term a sensible way of operating. The President replied that his administration is moving away from politics of personalities to politics of issues. He also wants to strengthen the party systems representing specific ideologies. He pointed out if he's not looking towards re-election, then he can do the unpopular decisions when they are needed. He said, quote, "You're focused to find the solutions that are in direct answer to question rather than how will my poll numbers be affected by this." Back in October, Mai speaking before business leaders, the President said even if there are some quarters saying he should try and go for a second term, he doesn't think that's the right solution. Instead, he added he would vote for the right candidate. President Aquino is in Singapore as a keynote speaker at the World in Gala dinner last night, organized by the influential magazine The Economist. Today, he met with business executives of Singapore-based firms. He is also set to meet Filipinos there at a local fast food chain. He will be arriving here late afternoon today. Mai?
Thank you, Anjo. Anjo Alimario reporting to us from Malacanang. Welcome back. Interior Secretary Mai Rodriguez says Deputy Director General Leonardo Espina will have full control of the police force following the suspension of PNP Chief Alan Purisima for 6 months. George Cahiles will tell us more, reporting from Camp Crame. Hi, George.
Hi, Interior Secretary Mai Rodriguez says appointing a new PNP chief may be possible following the 6-month preventive suspension of PNP Chief Director General Alan Purisima. But Secretary Rojas clarifies that he needs to talk to President Aquino once he is back in the country from Korea regarding that matter, and the final decision will still be from the President. If you could remember, the Ombudsman through the DILG served the preventive suspension order to Purisima and 11 other PNP officials in relation to the alleged misuse of gun owners' courier fees on December 9. And Rojas says Deputy Director General Leonardo Espina, the officer in charge of the PNP, will be enjoying the full powers as a temporary PNP chief while Purisima is in suspension. Espina's powers, my SOIC, include all administrative and operational matters of the PNP, but Rojas clarifies that they have yet to check if the usage of the PNP's intelligence fund is within Espina's duties. Espina assures that the PNP will be focused in performing its duties, which is to ensure the peace and order in the country. And he adds that the PNP is on the top of the situation in relation to the security preparations for the papal visit and other international events here in the country next year. And Secretary Rojas also reported that the criminality here in the National Capital Region has gone down this week compared to last week. In fact, the robbery, theft, and other carnapping cases last week, that's from November 24 to 30, is 591. And for this week, from December 1 to 7, it's 525. And Secretary Rojas reported that there's a downtrend in the criminality here in Metro Manila. And it only shows that their Operation Lambat Sibat is really effective, and by next year, he says that they will cascade this strategy in other regions so that they will have a national approach in terms of their anti-criminality campaign. Right?
All right, thank you, George. George Cahiles reporting to us from Camp Crame.